squaring up against Dimir Midrange.
Yeah, we've already seen Nicolin Lascu defeat...
the blue-white deck last round, right? Or the 2 rounds ago.
Yeah, 2 rounds ago he was playing... God, I can't recall. Anyhow, he was successful against the Boros Mice opponent. Exactly, with the Shieldred on turn 4. Yeah, he has a pretty anti-red heavy list in the main deck here with 4 Preachers and 1 Shieldred, really committing to that. Different to our King of the Hill, Sarunas, who was running a more flash-oriented, more low to the ground with more 1-drops. Here we see a lot of removal spells, 3 copies of Non-Infliction, 2 Spell Pierce, Phantom Interference, 2 Duress in the main deck. Seems like a really well-tuned list, also a copy of Blaststone in the mana base. Still has those 4 Curiosities, not going away from those. That card is just, you know, what made Dimir Midrange even be a deck, I would say. It's the centerpiece. And then, but no, only 2 copies of Kaito. Kaito, not that good when there's a lot of aggressive decks. They just easily haste him down, deal some damage to him, kill him quickly. Kaito better in a slower format, so I do understand that Kaito's a little bit lower here.
But it is something you have to run, right? Like you do need those card draw engines. Without Curiosity, without Kaito, this deck probably wouldn't even function.
Yeah, exactly. You need some of that. It combines very well with the small flyers. And here we go. Here we have the
deck of the tournament.
Deck of the tournament, yes, the most played deck. And yeah, it seems to be converting. We have both our winners have Izzet Prowess here. And this is a pretty good looking list. We only have 2 copies of Monster's Rage here, interestingly, and only 3 copies of Swift Spear. So Ivan choosing to trim some of the cards that nobody else is really touching, and running 4 copies of Stock Up, and in addition to that, 2 copies of Rens Resolve, so really honing in on the card advantage to keep the flurry of spells going.
Cool. Good stuff.
Yeah, 2 copies of Spell Pierce as well. He's prepared for the lockdowns of the Abuelo's Awakening. 5 Sharks.
Who would you favor in this matchup?
I would favor the Curry Steelcutter deck if you ask me like that, because Curry Steelcutter. It's basically, if that card is drawn and played and resolves
against blue-black.
Against blue-black, it's really good.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Nicolo has 2 copies of Spell Pierce and 2 copies of Duress.
Okay.
So, you know, he has some very early game interaction for the cutter. And then he has those to follow up with Preacher and Shieldred and a lot of removal for stuff like Slickshot. So he's certainly
better equipped to fight these types of decks than a normal blue-black list would.
Absolutely.
All right, we are live with round 14. It looks like Ivan is going to be on the play with Izzet Prowess, but no play on turn 1. There's an opt in hand though, so at least he's got that for the end of turn. Nicolin on the other side starts with a turn 1 Spyglass Siren, gets himself a map token. Looks like he came well prepared with all the tokens, love to see that. And pass the turn, opt and the end of turn for Ivan. Quickly puts that on the bottom. Might be searching for another land. Shivan Reef. Yeah, I think he did keep a 1-lander possibly, but seems like he did get there. Takes one of the off of the Shivan Reef and plots a Slickshot. So talk to me about the plot mechanic here and the thought process behind not just playing it right away, attacking forward for 1, dealing one point of damage.
It is very nice with this Curry Steelcutter first and foremost, as it does work as a
second spell.
Second spell.
Okay, that's pretty good reason already.
Yeah, and then in addition to that, it plays really well into opposing removal and counter spells. Like if your Jeska control opponent or even your Dimir Midrange opponent is holding up 2 mana on turn 2 to keep, you know, for an annoying affliction or something like that, you just plot it. They can't use their mana, they can't interact with it, and then whenever they're tapped out, boom.
Or whatever, you have that Spell Pierce up, or, you know, some of those cards you run. Okay, cool.
And you can hit them for a bunch. And in a way, this Izzet Prowess deck is a twofold deck. On one hand, it can grind really well, but also dealing a lot of damage in the meantime with Cutter. And then on the other hand, it has Slickshot, and Slickshot is able to deal a ton of damage out of nowhere when the opponent taps out. So it not only has the capability of ending the game on turn 4 consistently,
But you also have that explosive power that sometimes you just win the game out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. You have that, and you have the cutter grind ability, in addition to having Stalk Up and Storm Chase's talent even. So like this Izzet deck can actually go really low, really long. You can activate the talent on level 2 often to get a spell back. That does happen.
In the meantime, Nicolin does have a second Spyglass Siren past the turn, and Ivan decides to bring that slick shot show off from the plot zone.
Yeah, really interesting play here, by the way. Nicolin not attacking with the Spyglass Siren. Really, playing...
Threatening a double block.
Yeah, and also not using the map. So he's representing Spell Pierce or Cut Down here. So threatening the double block and then wants to engage Ivan in a stack war, perhaps here.
Is that an underground river, though? That is my question.
It is.
It is, right? Okay. Rent's Resolve is the play in second main phase. That's interesting.
Okay.
So both players kind of playing this dance of, well, I might play something. All right, I'm not going to play my removal just yet. But it looks like the Rent's Resolve is going to get hit by a Spell Pierce.
So it looks like Nicolin actually didn't block. Maybe he was just like threatening the block, and then he decided, oh, actually, if my opponent has a rage, he had another spell, I get blown out or something.
Yeah, decides to wait for a better turn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's not always...
And could have also, you know, it could have been a threat of the block that could have avoided the attack in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So like
exactly, yeah.
That little... But he doesn't have a Painless Black, which is obviously a little annoying here.
And he's going to see what Ivan is working with by starting the turn with a Deep Cavern Bat. That earns a Burst Lightning.
Lots of 1-mana spells being cast so far this game.
Yeah.
Both players only down to 3 cards.
No response to the Burst Lightning, so the Deep Cavern Bat leaves the battlefield, but you still get to take a look at your opponent's hand, and Nicolin sees an Island, a Monstrous Rage, and a Rent's Resolve.
Yeah, I think there was a short stutter maybe of like, which do I take? Oh wait, I actually don't take anything. Another river, more pain. But a card drawn, which is always nice when your map draws a card from the Siren.
Wow, this time he decides to attack, seeing the Monstrous Rage. The double block would probably not go too well, so swings for 2 back to Ivan. And this time the Rent's Resolve will actually resolve.
It's kind of funny. It's both players having a lot of pain lands here in action. But now there's a Painless Red Source for Ivan.
Goes with the Surveil trigger. And plays an Opt. All right. Oh wait, that was a Vert. That was not the Surveillance. Never mind. My bad. All right. Monstrous Rage main phase. So this is going to be a pretty big slick shot. How much damage are we looking at? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. So yeah, that's more than half of Nicolin's life total here. Pretty good turn, but at the same time, you kind of are running out of gas. I think Ivan has only 1 card left.
Yeah, he would love to draw a Stock Up here. Another pain. What is...
Does Nicolin have a removal spell? That is the question. That is the cut down that was very well represented earlier. That deals with a slick shot. Yeah, and now Ivan is in trouble.
He is, but yeah, I mean, he has some haste creatures. He has 2 cards left in hand. I'm not quite sure what they are. 3 cards actually. Yeah, I mean, this is a Prowess deck. Oh, it's 2 islands and a Stock Up. Okay, he does have to...
He does have a... Okay, that's the most important part. He does have a way to restock his hand. Nicolin attacks for 2.
A little bit more. A Kaito.
Oh, and gets himself a Kaito, but that does come with the cost of another damage through his land. So Kaito connects.
Yeah, he deciding essentially he wants to get this game over with. He is fine tapping out here, not representing any interaction.
I think Ivan needs something like a Swift Spear. Swift Spear into the Stock Up.
Yeah.
Hopefully find, you know, Rage, Burst Lightning, something like that.
That would be deadly, yeah. Didn't look like he found the Swift Spear quite, but he could still find Swift Spear plus Rage.
Yeah, it certainly has owls. There's a Swift Spear. Does he have the Rage, though?
Yes, there was a Rage.
Are you kidding me? Did he?
Yes.
Oh my God! Are you? That is insane.
Wow.
That is actually insane.
That's literally the only combination he had there. Burst Lightning would not have done it. Those Pain Lands decided the match. The game, sorry. The game.
Insane.
Those Pain Lands, those 4 damage, 5 damage from the Underground reverse.
Yeah.
Dark Shores, whatever.
Yep. Yeah, that's standard. You know, I think that's perfectly fair. You can build all these like multiple color decks and everything, and sometimes you just have to you know, feel the downside a little bit that these Painlands come with. But that was a very cool ending to the game. It looked like Ivan was in a lot of trouble, but this is why we compare stock up to the standard legal dig through time. Let's take a look at the sideboards here. What is Ivan working with?
Yeah, he has some nice ones. He actually is equipped with 2 copies of Scorching Shot. Some prowess lists are solely relying on Into the Floodmoor to get rid of bigger creatures that are black. Like, most of them have Lithomatic Barrage, but they don't do much against Return Shield Rid. So 2 Scorching Shot, huge. Absolutely huge. The way he loses against Nicolene is those 6 black creatures. They're very, very effective against this red strategy, so the Scorching Shows are huge. Besides that, I don't really see much. He could bring in the Lithomatic Barrage. It does get rid of a good chunk of his opponent's creatures. The Torture Tower is interesting to maybe exile the Enduring Curiosity. In the main deck, he's looking at an Into the Floodmoor. I would presume he would board out. That one's not too amazing. And then he could take out some of these Spell Pierces. Of them. I'm
looking at the mana base of the Dimir player and thinking whether I would bring in this, something like a Sunspine Links. I see 8 basics though.
I personally did play a good amount of Izzet Prowess, and I would say I don't love the Links too much in the deck because it's really a bad.
It's expensive.
Draw, yeah, during the early game. It doesn't combine well with your flurry cards. It doesn't double spell very well.
In a deck that's trying to double spell to really, you know, take a good advantage of its most powerful card. Yeah, it's mostly against the Domain, right? Domain players hate this little trick.
Yeah.
Sunspine Links, all right, GG.
SK Control, that one's also really good there. But to be fair, I've started with 2 copies in my list when I was testing, and I just lowered down to 1 and then down to 0. I think people just copied each other, and my personal opinion is that the card is a little overrated as a sideboard card right now. And I think you'd rather have, I think a card that's really good in the sideboard that we're not seeing here is Ral at the Crackling Wit. Anyhow, what are we looking at? 2 Filigree Silex. Yeah, they're more for the Pixie matchup. They can clear like Otter and Monk tokens. I don't love it as an answer here, because it's just like, it depends on the opponent's draw. It doesn't really solve the cutter issue totally, and it's just way too slow to remove the cutter for X equals 2 as the counter there. So yeah, you can bring in a Sideburner that shuts off the cutter if your opponent doesn't have a Burst Lightning, or at least that counts as 1 trigger. Shieldred's coming in, certainly. A Go for the Throat's fine. 2 copies of Dreams of Steel and Oil down there are great. The copy of Duress is definitely debatable. Takes the stock up, takes the cutter, and then Gix's commands. I don't know. It's more for like the mono red matchup, I think.
Yeah,
it's clunky. It's a little expensive.
There's Spell Pierce in the matchup, right? And, kind of clunky,
and of course, he's looking to side out the Kaitos. And in addition to that, he could side out some of the Deep Cavern Bats, as they are pretty weak against the Burst Lightnings.
Okay.
That's something I used to do back in the days when I was playing Dimir Midrange.
That's interesting though, because I mean, you would think lifelink creature, you know, it's kind of expensive given how small the body is. So the lifelink, the 1 point of lifelink is not that relevant in a matchup where you're dying to Monstrous Rages and you know these giant burst attacks from Slickshot. But yeah.
I mean, it's not embarrassing, but I mean, it's not embarrassing. It's fine. But he could also trim a Curiosity, I guess. He could trim some of his late game. The Phantom Interference on the draw is not going to be great. On the play, it's fine. Does counter the cutter on the play and stock up.
I think the biggest lesson with Deep Cavern Bat is that you're not too happy about trading down on mana, right? You don't want to play a 2 mana card that's just going to get killed by a 1 mana removal spell in a fast matchup.
Exactly.
Game 2 is underway. Nicolene on the play, Darkslick Shores, and starts with the discard spell. So what do we see here? Corey Steelcutter Core Steel Cutter again, and Monastery Swift Spear. So it looks like a mulligan for Yvonne. One of the cutters is going to hit the Exile Zone. And now, this is an interesting situation. Do you run out the Swift Spear on turn 1? Or are you more interested in playing turn 2 Steel Cutter and then holding on to the Swift Spear to try to double spell on turn 3?
I think I would be inclined to cast Swift Spear on turn 1. The deck is running low on lands, high on spells.
Yeah, looks like...
Seems like he's considering...
He's considering it. I mean, Standard is a fast format, right? You don't really want to give your opponent extra time. Like, that Swift Spear can do 3 damage in the meantime. Plus, you don't have a creature on the battlefield. So, yeah, that's a big difference. But, hey, a free monk is a free monk. Now, Ivan is considering what to do on turn 2. So, it looks like he might have another 2-drop. Perhaps he's considering if he wants to actually run out the Core Steel Cutter into a possible Spell Pierce or some kind of counter magic.
Yeah, he's probably thinking about what his opponent is representing here. Spell Pierce, removal, Phantom Interference. Playing out the cutter into counter spells is obviously not where you want to be. It's your strongest card in a matchup by far.
And this is the appeal of the blue-black deck. You just get to pass the turn all the time, sitting on these flash threats, the drowners, the fairy masterminds, the curiosities, and your opponents. They just have to guess: are you sitting on a counter spell? Are you just gonna play a creature at the end of turn? You don't also really want to waste your entire turn not playing anything and passing just to see your opponent add a creature to the board at the end of your turn. Sometimes you just gotta make them have it, right? Yeah, he does go for the Steel Cutter here, and he does have the Phantom Interference. Wow, that is that might just be the game right there.
Yeah. Oh my god. Man, Nicolene is good at curving. Didn't he do that against the Mice player as well? Curving Dreams at the Phantom on the case of the Crimson Pulse, then Preacher, then Shieldred?
Yeah.
We're gonna see a Shieldred here, Nicolene.
Yeah, good stuff.
Just the perfect curve, no Painland this time, Darkslick Shores turn 1.
Yeah.
I mean, if you start with a fast land in Standard, I think that ups your win rate by a good amount in these 2 color decks. Like fast land turn 1 is just so good. Oh wow, he drew another cutter off the top. Are you kidding me?
Wow. Okay.
That's incredible.
So Steel Cutter into a Storm Chaser's Talent, and remember, he still has that Swift Spear in his hand. Now he's probably regretting not playing the Swift Spear, given that he just kept drawing gas every turn.
Yeah, exactly. See, he missed out on free damage, I guess.
But yeah, that's just hindsight, right? I think the idea was good, and if you sort of get punished this way, it still kind of works to your advantage because at least you're drawing gas.
Yeah, but he gets extra punished by the Preacher being able to attack, make a token, and draw a card, which is definitely a bit of a punish, not just a free life. He does have a Monstrous Rage in hand, by the way. He has Monstrous Rage Swift Spear, so next turn he can do some attacking. We'll see what Nicolene can follow up his Preacher with. Is it a Shieldred? Oh, it's the
Did bring in the Silex.
All right. That's kind of neat here.
So let's see, what does Yvonne have? There's a Swift Spear. There is a Monstrous Rage. I think he does have a Barrage as well. Although, no, that probably doesn't make sense really to have against a blue-black deck where the cards you really want to kill are the black creatures.
It's fine. It does also kill Deep Cavern Bat. It's not.
That is true. That is true. It does deal 1 to the bat.
But if he's siding that in, I would like to see some Burst Lightnings maybe sided out.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, the Flickry Silex looking great here actually. If Ivan goes for more monks, it's just gonna kill 3 of his tokens essentially, and that's gonna be a big time buying for Nicolene. Although he also kills his own vampire, noteworthy.
Ivan considering his options.
Yeah, so he has the Swift Spear, the Rage, and I think his last card is the Lymphomantic Barrage here.
It is the Barrage. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's an awkward situation for him. It's like if he doesn't do anything, which he kind of doesn't want to do anything against the Silex, but then he's also just losing to this Preacher. He can't just attack for free and do nothing. Like, yeah, he could. This is just so awkward. He also has to proactively cast his Rage now to trigger his thing in the first place. He's like wasting so many cards.
Wow, actually, he uses the Barrage to deal with the Vampire.
Can't be happy about that.
You multi-6 and you have to use a card on something your opponent got for free.
Yeah, and now you're going to lose all your tokens.
So Monk gets created thanks to the Steel Cutter trigger. And looks like Ivan's going to go to attacks. Drowner says we're going to tap that Swift Spear. And yeah, you can attack with the Otters now if you want to play the Rage as well. You don't actually have red mana. And I'm just going to blow up the Silex here.
All right. I mean, the Silex pretty good here, I suppose.
Yeah, that was great. Clean turn.
Is that the tech that Blue-Black has to deal with the Cutter? Question mark.
And Nicolin, once again, is able to use every mana, every turn. Being proactive with the Preacher, drawing an extra card.
It's an absolute masterclass on how to play this matchup, or how to
pilot the black-blue deck.
How to win, perhaps, this matchup.
Yep, Monster's Rage is the only card left. I think you still remove the Cutter from the graveyard, though.
Someone in chat saying Barrage also kills Kaito. That is correct, but I think at this point in time, after like 6 months of Kaito in Standard, people know that Kaito is going to get taken out against the red decks. That's a common knowledge.
Plus, like, the red deck is on the play also, right? Yeah. Like, you want to be... I think a good lesson in general is you typically want to be more proactive when you're on the play. So the less removal you have, the more creatures, the more proactive cards are you going to have to, trigger your Steel Cutters and put pressure on the opponent. In the meantime, Preacher continues attacking. Nicolin's drawing extra cards. Deep Cavern Bat is going to take care of the Monster's Rage. Unless... Oh, there's Torch the Tower was the pickup last turn for Ivan, so that deals with the bat. And yep, we're still in the same exact position, except that Nicolin is getting so much value.
I like this play. Just cashing in the Rage for a Monk here. I think that's where you want to be. No removal in response from Nicolin, so Ivan might be thinking, hey, okay, maybe Nicolin is on 2 lands here, which would obviously be great for Ivan. Can he find something like a Stalk Up? All right. The Brain in the Clouds asking Proto Edge. This does qualify for Proto Edge of Eternities.
Yep.
The qualification time for Final Fantasy is over. That was the last regional championship in Prague that qualified for that one. Edge of Eternities will be, I think, 23rd to 25th of September. Gonna be modern.
Back to Nicolin.
Ivan choosing not to attack, realizing that he is in the defense here. He can't raise. He has to double block the Preacher or something like that. Or at least block the Floodpits Drowner. But yeah, the Preacher, I mean, you wouldn't mind drawing a card here and trading with both these creatures, would you?
Yeah, I mean, it is a risk. You get the double block. If there's a removal spell, you lose both. But at the same time, you don't really also want to stare down the Preacher, just drawing your opponent an extra card every turn. That just puts you into a deeper and deeper hole. Yeah, he does go for the double block. Nicolin is happy to trade for both of those creatures.
I mean, Nicolin theoretically could have a bunch of lands in hand. All right, another Preacher.
How about another Preacher?
I was about to say, and then if Ivan draws something like a Ren's Resolve or Stalk Up, that keeps him in the game too. Oh, that is
game.
That's probably game.
Yeah, that is game. Ivan is already down on cards, down on resources. He has less lands, less cards in hand, less life, and now Nicolin found his second card draw engine. Drowner and Curiosity attack. 6 damage comes through. 2 extra cards for Nicolin, and yeah, this game is over.
Yeah, I think I saw a Gix's command in his hand, so he's sitting on that too. And yeah,
yep, that is game. Unfortunate draw for Ivan there, who started off of a mulligan.
Yeah, a couple sideboarding decisions that he's maybe now thinking about for game 3.
Yep.
You know, a card that is also less good in a very interactive matchup like this one is Monstrous Rage.
Yep.
So you could have, you know, maybe don't have that one in on the draw, for example.
But remember that he only has 2 though.
Yeah,
right?
he has only 2.
He only has 2. Yeah.
Okay, looking at Nicolin's sideboard, he's also the deck list again. We're playing an open deck list format, so.
Speaking of the fact that he had 2 in that game 1 of the rages was already played. So
oh my God!
Playing stock up into Swift Spear and the rage meant that was the only one left in his deck. Wow, that was pretty lucky. Yeah, anything changes here for game 3? That Filigree Silex looked really good in the second game.
Yeah, I was impressed too.
But then again, it might once again be the thing of play or draw, right? If Nicolin now is on the play, perhaps he wants a more proactive card. We will see.
Nicolin is actually...
Oh wait, no, he's gonna be...
Yeah,
never mind, I have it the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Ivan is on a play, right. So Ivan might want to shave some shocks, as you said, Lithomantic Barrage. I do like that idea of yours, to be just fully proactive, have limited light sideboarding, I'd say. The Spell Pierces on his side are not great, I would cut them, and the Into the Floodmaw is also not great. The Scorching Shots are good, and then maybe bring in a Torture Tower and just leave it at that.
Still no Sunspy Links?
It's not terrible. I mean, I would not be... like, if you bring in 1 or 2, if you have experience in a matchup and you know how this plays out, like, I actually do not have that much experience. Like, I don't think I've seen Dimir Midrange I haven't played against him with Izzet Prowess myself when playing the deck. It's not that popular these days. So, yeah, but surprisingly doing well in this tournament. We have already Sarunas locking up a top 8. And here we have another player playing for the top 8.
Something I do want to point out is we have seen a lot of Sunspine Lynxes in these red decks. And Domain is certainly on the deck line. There's not that much Domain. I think we had like 3 or 4% of Domain in the tournament, which makes me question what other matchups are the red players bringing the Lynxes for?
Yeah.
We see 3 or 4 Lynxes in a lot of these red decks.
Yeah. So Pixie is, I think, commonly, Lynxes commonly used as a separate card there. And Jessica Control. That one.
Oh yeah, Jessica Control is a good one.
Jessica Oculus, theoretically. They don't play any basics or barely, 1 or 2.
All right, good point.
Yeah.
Speaking of Domain, do we have any Domain players at the top of the standings?
We do.
Table 5, hello?
Table 5 is a Domain Mirror.
Domain Mirror?
It's a win-in. That's a win-in. Yeah.
So we're gonna have 1 Domain player in the top 8 trying to dodge all these red players and their Sunspy Lynxes. Yeah,
and we actually do have at table 4. We have Michele Aliazzo against Maximilian Höglund. Michele on Dimir Midrange as well.
Okay.
2 players on Dimir playing win-ins here.
Wait, there's 3. Table 1 already drew. That's Dimir.
Yeah,
wait, what?
Well, table 1 is in.
There could be 3.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
There could be 3 Dimir Midrange in the top 8. Are you kidding me?
That would be a big surprise. Yeah.
That is not something I expected coming into the tournament.
Yeah.
What is the other Dimir player playing again? So we have Dimir...
against Blue-White Omniscience. He's playing against Blue-White Omniscience. We have that one playing for the top 8. And we have 2 mono-red players in the top 8 already. 1 is Izzet Prowess in the top 8, 1 Dimir Midrange in the top 8. Those are the 4 players on table 1 and 2. They're sitting pretty. Their tiebreakers look great. And then we have Izzet Prowess and Blue-White Artifacts as our backup table. So another Prowess player. Can he make top 8, or is the Blue-White Artifacts deck, the rogue deck by Thomas January, able to defeat him? What
if you scroll down a little bit and we go to tables, let's say 18 to 20, which are the players also competing for the Pro Tour invite? Does it get a little bit more diverse? We see the Boros Monument there.
We see a lot of Jeskai decks everywhere. As we saw at the beginning of day 1, Jeskai was dominating at the top tables.
Yeah.
And now for the top 8,
Oh,
It
right.
might just be the case that we don't have a single Jeskai deck in the top 8.
What happened?
Yeah, it's actually, we won't have it. You can already confirm we won't have a single Jeskai.
Wait,
deck.
what happened?
They're all at tables 7 to 11. There's a bunch of Jeskai Arculus, Jeskai Convoke, Jeskai Control. There's so much Jeskai Control at all the tables below the top tables. they just barely, like, yeah, they're just gonna fill up the top 32 and the top 16 and just at this event. Maybe some variants, you know. Could have easily been the case that one of them would have had a better run and just win a little bit more.
I mean, we saw Luis Gobert in last round.
Yeah, Gobert lost.
Third land. Yeah.
Napi on Jeskai Control lost. Nif Shmueli was like 8-1-1 with Jeskai Control. We had Moscato at 9-0 with Jeskai Arculus. He lost 3 times in a row. Now at 10-3. Yeah.
I wonder what happened. What happened on day 2? If the field was a little bit different, and maybe they got paired against, you know, some of the domain players, for example. Like, that's not a great matchup. You don't really want to play Oculus against domain. Looks like game 3 is about to start. Both players finishing, resolving their mulligans.
I just want to say, these players, if they're not getting disqualified in these last minutes of the Swiss rounds, have qualified themselves for the Pro Tour.
Yeah, congratulations. Big accomplishment. Good stuff. Would you rather, if it's your first Pro Tour, would you rather play the modern one or a standard one?
Standard, 100%. Are you kidding me?
Why?
I'm a standard guy. Always.
Okay.
Been. Always been. We played in my first Grand Prix that I made top 8.
Yeah.
We actually, Martin and I played against each other in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Martin gave me a lesson, and that was a standard GP. So I love standard.
Modern can be a little overwhelming. Like, if your first Pro Tour is modern, when there's so many different decks, and like you pretty much need to have a team of people to prepare with, or just play online and just put in a lot of practice alone. But given that modern has 40 different decks that can win the tournament on any given day, it can certainly be quite a challenge. That said, standard these days, it also has so many new sets coming in, all these special sets, right, that previously were just modern legal. But anyways, game 3 is underway. Corey Steelcutter is the play on turn 2 for Yvonne, and no response from Nicolin because he started on a tapped land. So no spell piece there, no discard spell, and yeah, good luck dealing with an artifact if you're playing blue and black. Duress turn 2 a little too late.
Yeah, the Gloom Lake Verge not being able to produce black mana on turn 1.
What are we looking at here? We have Storm Chaser's Talon with the Barrage, Scorching Shot, Opt, and a Burst Lightning. What do you like here?
This is exactly the type of hand I would snap off probably the Opt here, honestly. Maybe the Storm Chaser's Talon, depends a little bit on my hand, but like, this is very
reactive.
Removal heavy, very reactive. That Lithomantic Barrage, the Burst Lightning, yeah, okay, I at least can go to the face, but like, taking the Opt, I like that. Good call. You could also actually theoretically you take the Burst Lightning, and Ivan is sitting on mountain blue-red land, so he can't cast both Talent and Opt.
Okay.
But of course he can look for another blue land with the Opt if he has that. Oh, he drew a Torch to tower.
Wow, yeah, removal flooded, yeah.
And he just passes the turn, waiting for Nicolin to play a creature.
Yeah, and he might just recognize that, that is not what I want to do here.
Yeah, he has a Deep Cavern Bat in hand. I would be surprised if he plays that here. He also has a Silex. Looks like that's going to be his play. And he has another copy of Dreams of Steel and Oil, which doesn't have any targets right now. So awkward for Ivan. He drew Spirebluff Canal, but again, not playing anything. He could go Burst Lightning, Storm Chaser's Talent, but looking at that Filigree Silex, oh wow, Nicolin didn't level up that Silex. I wonder about that. The game is turning out to be really slow. Maybe you want to level it up to 2.
Interesting.
To blow up the cutter. And now he's playing the bat. Oof.
So this is a game of who's going to blink first. Yeah. Are you going to play the creatures for my removal spells so I can finally start triggering the Steel Cutter?
I would have personally, you know what I would have done this game, I think, in Nicolin's shoes? I would have just leveled up the Silex to 2 and then blow it up.
Start playing the creatures?
And then start playing the creatures.
When you can deal with the Steel Cutter before it makes
I would have played it a little bit more patiently, I think.
Certainly also a valid approach. Let's see if this pays off. So Deep Cavern Bat deals with the Burst Lightning. And Ivan decides not to fire off any of the instant speed removal spells. Instead, untaps, and he's going to be looking to double spell here to get himself a token from the Steel Cutter. Pondering his options.
Yeah, and I mean, the Silex deals with the Otter and the Monk, sure. But if the game drags out a little bit, which, both players are 20, the Cutter still sits there and will produce more Monks.
Interesting option how to sequence this, by the way. You can start by, okay, it has a fourth line, so it doesn't matter. But I was thinking, do you want to play the talent first? Which card do you want to expose to Spell Pierce? And if you play Barrage, obviously that can be countered. So how exactly do you want to sequence this? Looks like Ivan has a fourth line, so it doesn't really matter. Storm Chaser's talent hits the battlefield, makes an Otter, and we're going to attack for some damage with the Mong that also picked up the Steel Cutter. Unless Nicolin decides to blow up the Silex. No, decides to take the damage instead.
I wonder. Storm Chaser's talent level 3 makes cost 6 mana. It's pretty expensive, but I wonder if this game comes down to it. It looks kind of like that. Ivan has a lot of removal in hand, so he has the ability to slow Nicolin down. Nicolin full information here using a cut down. Interesting. He knows that Ivan could burst lightning, but then he's probably gonna prompt. Yeah,
then he would lose his removal spell.
Yeah.
Decides to let it die. Nicolin untaps, and yeah, he's looking at a bunch of 4-drops. I see a Shieldred, I see a Curiosity, but no fourth land. That is not ideal. There's a Go for the Throat and a Dreams of Steel and Oil. Yeah, so both players with a pretty awkward hand here.
Well, but Ivan has a little bit more lands. He can now get the AWP back, which is kind of nice. And yeah, it's already one mana away from the
leveling to 3
mana option. Yeah. To be fair, in the face of Filigree Silex, you probably don't want to level up to 6. I mean, Nicolin is really, if you would have put that Silex on 2, I think he would have had a better time this game. Now he drew a land.
Okay.
So he has Shieldred and Enduring Curiosity now available to him. If I remember correctly, Ivan does have Torch the Tower though, and Scorching Shot. So,
yep. I'm also getting some information from the back end. Frank is informing us that thanks to the result of Table 2, this table of Ivan against Nicolin is now a definite win and in. It doesn't matter how the other results end up. If somebody draws or doesn't draw, or what happens, this is now a definitive win and in. So both players are going to be able to lock up a spot in the top 8 should they win. I think they're both already pretty relaxed, or at least I would be, knowing I already picked up the Pro Tour invite. So normally if you play a Grand Prix, type of event and the top 8 is kind of all that matters, you're going to be pretty nervous coming into the last round playing for the top 8, but knowing you already picked up the PT invite, and sure, you're still playing for, some pretty big cash prizes, you're still playing for 2 world slots, but that Pro Tour invite is a pretty good consolation prize, even if you don't win the match.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting spot here. He has a Curiosity, he can flash in to sort of like block, but he also knows about the Torch Tower from the earlier Deep Cavern, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So he kind of wants to blow up the tokens first, so he doesn't have any bargain fodder, or at least he has to sacrifice like the talent. Yeah, it's just an awkward situation for Nicolin. The game dragging out, and you really see the power of Cory's Steel Cutter, and also the power of Storm Chaser's talent. Yep. It's not just a prowess creature, it's also a card advantage. Wow. I suppose.
Silex deals with the tokens, and just like you said, before flashing in the Curiosity, so now the Torch the Tower is going to be a little awkward if you want to deal 3 damage.
Yeah, he does have it, and I would think he just sacrificed the talent here. It's done its work. You really can't allow that Curiosity to hit you. I don't know what else he has. I might have saw another burst lightning, so you could combine the 2. If he really wants to like to kill the curiosity. If he really wants that talent to go to level 6 and grind Nicolin out. Oh wow, he's sacrificing the cutter? That is also an option. I'm surprised by that.
Or perhaps he's just playing Tharstar, deciding what is he going to sacrifice. No, he is actually sacrificing the Core Steel Cutter. Interesting. That means that the Swift Spear is going to connect for an extra point of damage, and he ends a turn by playing one more land past it to Nicolin. So Nicolin does have a Sheoldred, but he knows that Yvonne is sitting on that Scorching Shot. So probably want to delay it as much as you can to try to bait out the Scorching Shot with something else. But if you don't have any other plays, then, well, I guess you might be happy just running out the Sheoldred. Anyway, that said, if he has something like a Duress in his deck, he might want to wait for that. Lots of different options to consider.
Yeah, I think waiting for Sheoldred makes a lot of sense. It also prevents prowess from happening, to let the opponent just rot on that Scorching Shot. Yeah, it's a bit of an awkward hand. He has Dreams of Steel and Oil and go for the throat here. Not great. He could attack the Restless Reef just for 4 damage, but that's obviously not something where you want to be either.
If Yvonne has 2 cards, then he knows about both of them, right?
I think he knows about one Scorching Shot. He doesn't know.
Isn't there a Burst Lightning?
I think I saw.
Was it already cast?
100% sure.
Okay.
No, he did cast a Burst. No, yeah, you're right.
It was taken with the Deep Cavern Bat earlier. I think he knows about both those cards.
Yeah.
That's probably why he stopped himself from casting that Dreams of Steel and Oil. I think he knows about both those cards.
Yeah.
Or are we? Let's see. No, there is a Burst Lightning, and I think we saw both of those cards earlier.
Now we have to remind the players again that they have to exile a card from graveyard. This is slightly delayed. It doesn't matter really if there's.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, no, it does matter, but it's beneficial for Nicolin here. Oh yeah, the judges are actually seeing it. They're on top of the game.
They are on top of it. Yeah.
He exiles his cutter, which. What does Dreams of Steel and Oil say? Does it not exile any card?
I think it exiles a creature or an artifact from the graveyard.
Let me just.
And in the meantime, Yvonne is very close to, he's actually doing it now, leveling up that Storm Chaser's talent. So level 3 means whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you get to create one of these Prowess Otters for free. And yeah, blue-black also not very good at dealing with enchantments. And one of those Circuit Silexes is already in the graveyard if it even deals with
it does.
An enchantment.
The Silex does.
It does, okay.
Yeah, he has 1 left in his deck. Yeah. That's one way to get yourself into the top 8 of a regional championship. Level 3 of Storm Chaser's talent.
Well, that's the value. Why have a Steel Cutter and limit yourself to playing 2 spells to create 1 Otter when you can just do it every time you cast an instant or sorcery? Wow, and Nicolin respects the Scorching Shot, doesn't run out the Sheoldred, and just attacks with this Restless Reef. That is also a very valid approach. If we're going to play this game where we're both not casting our spells, then I might as well just start attacking with the creature land that you cannot kill with a Scorching Shot. That said, Ivan does have the Burst Lightning, so that would be able to take care of it.
Yeah, Ivan just drew a really good card.
Wow, that is a really good card.
Yeah, that's going to get back to Sleight of Hand. Probably. Also, Nicolin milling his opponent makes those better, so he maybe should have built himself. And
so, level 2 of Storm Chaser's talent lets you bring back the Sleight of Hand. Ivan plays that right away.
Are we going to see 2 Storm Chaser's talent?
Level 3, yeah. I think we will. And that's probably what's going to win this game. This is why this Izzet Prowess deck is so good. It's because these red decks, when they run out of gas, there's not much else you can do once you hit your 6th land drop. Blue-red, that can grind.
Yeah. And those big shout out to that Scorching Shot. That really is the silent MVP of this game. That sideboarding decision. If that would have just been into the Floodmaw, the Sheoldred would have just been recast and. Yeah, all right. So Scorching Shot gone now. Not using the Burst Lightning.
Interesting. Yeah.
The Burst Lightning, but maybe his hand is so loaded that he just. Oh my God. He can get the Scorching Shot back against.
Nice. I was gonna say that might end up, being very costly, burning that Scorching Shot here instead of keeping it for the Sheoldred. But if you have another Storm Chaser's talent that can let you bring it back, no harm, no foul. So the 2 Otters are attacking Those a couple prowess triggers, and yeah, we're gonna level up the new one as well. What are we gonna get back? Scorching Shot, or no? It's actually Sleight of Hand. So Ivan picks up Sleight of Hand, and next turn we might see him cast a lot more spells to try to go for the win. Nikolin sees the coast is maybe clear, runs out the Shield Dread, passes the turn. So Ivan goes to 14. And let's see how many spells he's going to be able to play this turn. He has a Burst Lightning, he has a Sleight of Hand, he has a lot of mana to play with. Starts on the Sleight of Hand. I believe that puts cards in your hand you don't actually draw.
Yeah.
We're going to get a lot of triggers here. Corey Steelcutter is the pickup. All these otters are now 2/2s.
This might just be game.
Sleight of Hand number 2.
Maybe like a million power.
Yeah, including, yeah, I think it's already lethal now, right? With the Burst Lightning. You have 3/3s coming through. I do think Nikolin maybe has a go for the throat though, so.
I think he picked up a Flood Pits Drowner.
Or Drowner, okay.
Similar-ish.
This Storm Chaser's talent card, I think it might have some pretty good future.
It's a good one, yeah. And there's Opt.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Storm count is 3. Thank you very much.
Prowess? Is that a good ability in a deck full of spells?
Looks pretty good here.
Turn into 4/4s? At this point in time, Filigree Silex has to be on top of the deck, and I guess a miracle has to happen. I mean, theoretically, it's not that. He can tap an otter with the Flood Pits Drowner, block 2 otters, but we do know about that Burst Lightning that's still in hand. So that can get rid of the Flood Pits Drowner, and that actually would mean 12 unblocked damage.
This is going to be such a big attack.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Okay, there you go. Cutter as well for another Prowess trigger. Finishing it off in style. There's a Flood Pits Drowner.
Yeah, one of those otters is going to get tabbed, but we're still attacking for quite a bit of damage. Burst Lightning kills the blocker, and there is, what, 3 7/7s coming through. Congratulations to Ivan, who picks up game number 3 and locks up a spot in the top 8 of Regional Championship Bologna. Well played. I gotta say, when I saw his first hand, and he picked up that 4th removal spell,